Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Nerdy Multiverse and yet another breakdown. Today we will be breaking down and giving our initial thoughts on the 4th episode of the newest spin-off Walking Dead series following Daryl Dixon in France. The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, of course. And the title of this episode in English, I believe, translates to the Iron Lady, a very common nickname for the Eiffel Tower. And this episode starts off with a rather confusing or strange scene, as we see Daryl in what looks like to be the sewers as he is forced to watch Laurent on the other side get surrounded by walkers. And it looks like there is nothing to do and that Laurent is going to die. But he just starts praying and the walkers that surround him then just leave, leaving Laurent without a single scratch on him, and then he smirks and walks off with them. Now, whether this was a hallucination, a scene in the future, or anything else is very unclear, as this was the only time we saw it and it was never mentioned in the rest of this episode. We then get back to what we do know is real, as Daryl wakes up underwater after he fell through the rooftops at the end of the previous episode, and a few walkers in the water try attacking him, but he does take them out and swims to the surface and to safety. Now back at the rooftops community, as a beat up Cadron interrogates the people of the community, asking where the American, obviously being Daryl, is and why he came from the south. And the lady being interrogated here is the same one that Laurent held in the last episode. She says that Daryl came down here in service of the Union and to deliver the boy. Again, these people talk about how Laurent is so special and how he is their hope for a better world, which is where Madame Genet enters the scene. Genet says that she has heard of these so-called stories of this special boy, but she never believed them to be true, only thought them to be folktales and something that these people so desperately believed in. The other lady says that the fools are the ones who put their faith in Madame Genet, and Laurent will save them all, even her, which makes it sound very, very religious rather than the infection cure. Now, after she says this, Genet gets really creepy as she smiles and laughs at her, saying that the weak and such, people like her, are the reason that they are in this mess. A baby cries in the background amongst the crowd and catches the attention of Madame Genet. So she walks over and takes the baby from her mother's arms and quote-unquote comforts it. Now this was super creepy and I honestly thought she was about to kill a baby, but gladly she did not do that. Her whole vibe here was just extremely scary though. As Daryl makes his way through the city, he runs into Antoine, the pigeon guy to be exact. Daryl is out looking for the others and Antoine explains that everyone else has fled the rooftops besides the normal residents, as they are the enemies of Madame Genet and her men. But a vehicle is approaching, so they have to put Antoine's bike to the side and hide. A couple of Cadron's men stop and they take the pigeons from his bike, which of course makes Antoine leave his hiding spot and beg them not to take his beloved birds. Unfortunately, they do not care in the slightest for his pigeons and just end up shooting and killing Antoine, which I guess you could say sets Daryl off, as he immediately jumps out after this and takes both of these guys out, to then comfort Antoine as he takes his final breaths. Antoine requests to set the pigeons free, so Daryl helps him do so, this being Antoine's final actions in his life. But I also think this shows that Daryl has a lot of heart even for those he hardly knows. But the freeing of the birds also resembles that these guys are searching for freedom as Madame Genet reigns over Paris. Isabelle waits back at her old house once again and Daryl arrives and they reunite. Isabelle still doesn't know where Laurent is and is worried because he doesn't know Paris at all. But Daryl of course has an idea on where he has gone, so they head out. We then cut to the nightclub as Anna sits down right next to Quinn and tries to talk to him, but he doesn't really give her any respect or attention. All he is showing interest towards is finding Daryl, Laurent, and Isabelle. Anna is clearly growing very jealous about this entire situation with Isabelle, as she says that it takes a lot for a woman to come back, but then says it also takes a lot for them to have a reason to stay. Laurent, all alone, makes his way through the streets of Paris and finally arriving at the Eiffel Tower, something that he has wanted to do ever since he he knew his mother went there. It does have the damaged top from the crashed helicopter that we also learned about in the previous episode. The tower is completely surrounded by a bunch of sandbags and barrels, and Laurent peeks through a little peephole only to be looked back at by a walker, as they all start knocking down the walls as if they were notified of him even though he didn't make a single noise. Daryl and Isabelle get there right as this happens, so they rush in and start taking out the walkers as fast as they can so they can find and get to Laurent before something bad happens. But he seems to be fine as he is just hiding under the rubble. But a walker crawls down and tries to attack him like it knew exactly where he was. But it does get taken out by somebody as Laurent's cover is pulled off of him and he is taken away and kidnapped by a group of unknown men. Daryl does try his best, but they do get away with Laurent in their car, but two of the capturers get left behind and Daryl and Isabelle take one of them as their prisoner as the other one was devoured by walkers. Isabelle tries to get him to talk about where Laurent was taken by mentioning their religious lives, but it is not working even if this man was previously a disciple, as he has clearly changed and he knows of Isabelle's life before all of this, being a thief and such, so she now knows who took Laurent, being Quinn of course, which is where we cut to next as Quinn and Laurent sit right next to each other, very quiet and very awkward. Quinn hasn't told Laurent who he is yet, but he wonders if Laurent knows who he is, and Laurent, being that rather intelligent kid, immediately guesses that Quinn is his father. Quinn says that he was the one that rescued him from the Eiffel Tower. Now obviously he wasn't there himself, but he still claims that he was the brave man that rescued him. He says that he is safe here now and he intends to make up for lost time. Now Daryl and Isabelle need to figure out how to get into the nightclub to get Laurent back, without just going straight through the main entrance. But the man is not giving anything up, so Daryl goes back to his old torturous ways as he tells the story of his life before the apocalypse, mocking this guy. After torturing him, they get their answer and head out after meeting with Falou and the others, who will go and attack the main entrance of the nightclub as a diversion, while Isabelle and Sylvie meet with a man who will transport them via boat once everyone returns. Madame Genet is now at the nightclub herself as she meets with Quinn, who presents her a deal, and lies about having Daryl and not having the child. They evidently do make a deal, but as Genet and Caudron walk out, they say that they cannot let the child leave the city either. Quinn gives Anna a gun and tells her that Laurent won't be alone because she will be there with him, and practically just orders her to go and protect him and make sure he does not leave with anyone. As Daryl makes his way through the tunnels with his prisoner as his guide, the diversion attack begins, and Daryl's prisoner tries to escape, but he just gets himself hurt and then left behind to be devoured by walkers after Daryl gets his final directions. Emile gets shot during the attack on the nightclub, so they finish the job and then they all get out of there as one. As Falou said earlier, they go in as one and they leave as one. We then see Daryl sneak his way into the nightclub and walk into the room with Laurent and Anna. Laurent is ready to go and reunite with Isabelle, but is keen on returning Anna's necklace back to her. However, when he turns around, she is holding them at gunpoint. But ultimately, she was given the gun for no reason, as she just puts it down and tells them to go and get out of there. On their way out, Daryl and Quinn are met face to face on the boardwalk and they fight one another for the possession of Laurent basically. But Daryl absolutely beats him up and with ease. He nearly takes him out fully, but instead just knocks him out unconscious and they leave him behind for him obviously to return in the future. They all reunite at the river and get ready to board the boat and head off. But Isabelle cannot go with them and she needs someone else to deliver Laurent fully, or else none of them will make it out of the city alive, as Genet is now placing guards at each of the city's limits. And of course that person being Daryl, but they had a deal and Daryl's already done more than that already. But he eventually does come around and agree to take Laurent with him and to the nest, as everyone else stays behind. Isabelle promises Laurent that she will do everything in her power to make her way out of the city and find Laurent again. Now hopefully this is truthful and she is able to do that for him, as she has lied to him his entire life. But anyways, they all say goodbye to one another as Daryl and Laurent ride off down the river. They float past different landmarks such as the Eiffel Tower, all while Isabelle returns to the nightclub and in turn returns to Quinn. Now I think she may have a plan to kill him, and Anna is still there as well, so I'm sure she's even more jealous now that Isabelle is there. But who knows, maybe the two will eventually get along and realize that they may have the same idea to take Quinn out. Daryl and Laurent then ride past the Statue of Liberty. Now no, this does not mean they are in New York or will mean we will see Maggie or Negan, because this isn't the actual Statue of Liberty, it's just one of the reproductions of it. Obviously France is going to have some reproductions of the Statue of Liberty, as the original one that is in America now was a gift from France. But anyways, as Daryl takes in the view, the episode ends off. And overall, I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. There was loads of great action, and Daryl finally got his shine with that, as he was previously just constantly getting knocked out and captured by different people. I'm curious to see how Isabelle's future continues now that she's gone back to Quinn, and I'm excited to see how Daryl and Laurent's continued venture goes and what enemies they come across. And speaking of enemies, the villains in the series, as the episodes go on, just keep getting more and more terrifying, specifically Madame Genet in this one. Now, I think I would rate this episode a 7 or 8 out of 10, and I'm super excited for the next one, of course. But obviously, I would like to hear about your thoughts on this episode as well, so make sure to leave them down below. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed our breakdown and review on this episode, don't forget to give it a like, and with that being said, we will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse. Thank you.